Have you ever felt like you're standing right on the edge of a cliff, peering into the vast unknown, just wondering what on earth is coming next? We've all been there, caught in that uncertain space between where we've been and where we think we're headed, often with no clear path in sight. Life's uncertainty can certainly weigh heavy on the heart. Yet, right in the midst of all the questions and anxieties, there is one unshakable truth that stands firm. God always knows what's next for you, even when you don't. Stay with us to find comfort and confidence in His plan. Life simply doesn't come with a detailed roadmap, does it? We often find ourselves walking through seasons where the future feels incredibly unclear, where we honestly don't know what's waiting for us just around the next corner. That unsettling feeling, the uncertainty of what lies ahead, can be deeply unsettling, sometimes even paralyzing. We tend to spend so much valuable time and energy trying desperately to predict what's coming, attempting to meticulously plan every single detail, striving to control our own future. But let me gently remind you of something incredibly powerful. Today, you don't have to know everything. It's perfectly okay not to have all the answers right now. It's okay to bravely step into the unknown and still confidently believe that God has your back, that He's guiding your steps. We expend so much precious energy worrying about what's next that we often forget one absolutely critical thing. God is never surprised by your uncertainty. He is certainly not caught off guard by the unexpected twists and turns of life. The unknown is not meant to be a place of fear when we truly understand and internalize the fact that God knows exactly what's next for us. In fact, it's often precisely in those moments of profound uncertainty that He can most powerfully show us His incredible strength, His infinite wisdom, and His perfect timing. Think about it. How many times in your own life has God faithfully led you through something you didn't understand at all at the time, only for you to look back later, perhaps months or even years down the road, and say, "Wow, that was exactly what I needed." When you don't know what's next, always remember that God does. And the very best thing we can possibly do in those uncertain times is to simply trust that He's already ahead of us, lovingly preparing the way. Let me tell you something truly powerful. The unknown is not your enemy. So often, we mistakenly think that uncertainty is something negative, something to be actively avoided at all costs, something that inevitably stands in the way of our peace, our happiness, and our success. But what if I told you that the very thing we often fear the most, that feeling of uncertainty, is actually the very place where God's greatness often shines the brightest in our lives? We're all naturally wired, it seems, to crave certainty. We desperately want to know what's coming next. We inherently desire to feel in control. We want the entire plan laid out neatly before us. But God doesn't typically operate like that. He doesn't need you to have all the answers. He just needs you to fully trust Him when you don't have them. It's often in these very moments of uncertainty that we experience the most significant growth. It's precisely when we don't know what's next that our faith is truly stretched, tested, and ultimately refined. The exact moment we consciously surrender our deep-seated need for control and choose instead to embrace the unknown is the very moment we give God the crucial opportunity to move in miraculous ways we could never have possibly imagined or orchestrated on our own. God specializes in navigating the unknown. He doesn't require us to see the whole, complete picture. He only asks us to faithfully take the next obedient step in faith, even when we can't clearly see the next mile marker on the road ahead. Do you remember the incredible story of Abraham? God told him to leave everything familiar behind, his family, his home, his security, and venture out to a land he had never even seen before, to a place completely unknown to him. Can you possibly imagine the immense uncertainty that must have flooded his heart? Yet Abraham courageously stepped out, not because he knew precisely what lay ahead, but because he knew and trusted the one who was leading him. And God certainly didn't disappoint. The unknown, for Abraham, became a powerful stepping stone directly into the fulfillment of God's incredible promises. So today, please don't be afraid of the uncertainty you might be facing. Instead, choose to embrace it. Because it's often within that very space of "I don't know" that God is patiently waiting to reveal himself to you in a fresh, transformative way that will forever change your life. Embrace the unknown with the quiet confidence that the one who lovingly holds your entire future is never lost, never confused, and always faithful. You may be sitting here today feeling like your life is a complex puzzle with far too many missing pieces. You simply can't see the whole picture yet, and it feels incredibly frustrating, not knowing how everything is supposed to fit together. But let me tell you something truly powerful and reassuring. God has a specific, detailed plan for you, and his plan is always infinitely greater than anything you could ever possibly design or imagine for yourself. It's so easy to get caught up in the relentless noise of the world, the looming deadlines, the constant pressures, the endless expectations from others. We start to mistakenly believe that if we don't have everything perfectly figured out, right now we've somehow failed or missed the mark. But genuinely trusting God's plan means learning to rest peacefully in the quiet knowledge that he's already meticulously mapped out your entire future, even when you personally can't see the path ahead clearly. The truth is, God's perfect plan doesn't require your complete understanding. It simply requires your willing obedience. We often desperately want to know every single detail in advance. But God usually calls us just to take the very next step in faith, even when, especially when, we can't clearly see the road ahead. Think again about Joseph in the Bible. His remarkable journey was filled with heartbreaking betrayal, unjust prison time, and immense heartache. Yet, through every single challenging step of his life, God was intricately working out a divine plan that Joseph himself couldn't possibly see or comprehend at the time. It wasn't until precisely the right moment arrived that Joseph could finally look back and clearly see the profound purpose hidden within his pain, the deep meaning woven into his struggles. So today, I want you to know deep in your spirit that your life is not just a random series of disconnected events. God has already written your story, and he is faithfully guiding you through every single step of the way. Trust him. Trust that even when things don't seem to make any logical sense from your perspective, his perfect plan is still beautifully unfolding. And trust that it's ultimately leading you to greater things, to deeper intimacy with him than you could ever possibly imagine right now. How many times have you found yourself anxiously wondering, why is this happening right now? Or why am I still waiting for this breakthrough? We often struggle immensely with God's timing simply because it rarely matches our own impatient schedules. We desperately want answers today. We crave progress right now. But God operates on a divine timetable that is vastly different from ours. Let me gently remind you of something crucial today. God's timing is always, without exception, perfect, even when it doesn't make a lick of sense to us in the moment. We are often inherently impatient, constantly rushing through life, always trying to get hurriedly to the next stage, the next level, the next anticipated breakthrough. But God's timing isn't rushed. It's incredibly precise. It's perfectly intentional. It's wonderfully deliberate. Every perceived delay, every unexpected pause, every prolonged waiting season actually has a divine purpose within his larger plan. And what seems like a frustrating setback in your life right now may actually be God's strategic way of preparing you for something far greater, something far more wonderful than you could ever possibly imagine for yourself. Think about the story of David. When God anointed him as the future king of Israel, he didn't immediately ascend to the throne. Instead, he spent many long years running from Saul, hiding in caves, fighting numerous battles, and most importantly, learning to trust God in ways he never could have otherwise imagined. David's extended waiting season wasn't a punishment. It was essential preparation. God was meticulously developing his character, profoundly strengthening his faith, and intentionally building the resilience he would absolutely need to effectively rule the nation one day. So, if you find yourself waiting today, perhaps waiting for a breakthrough, waiting for a specific door to open, waiting for a situation to finally change, please remember this vital truth. God's delay is never ultimately a denial. It's often a clear sign that he is actively at work in your life, diligently preparing you for what's coming next. You are likely right where you need to be at this very moment. And when the time is perfectly right according to his wisdom, he will sovereignly open the doors that absolutely no one can shut. Trust implicitly in his perfect timing, because God is never ever late. He is always right on time. How often do we find ourselves fervently praying, specifically asking God for something, absolutely convinced that we know exactly what we need? Maybe it's a particular job, a specific relationship, guaranteed financial stability, or perhaps physical healing. We make our requests known, earnestly hoping that God will give us precisely what we've asked for, according to our timeline. But what happens when God doesn't answer in the exact way we expected? Or when he clearly says, "Not yet"? Here's a profound truth to grasp. God knows your deepest needs far better than you do. He sees things you cannot possibly see. He understands what you truly require in ways that go far beyond your own limited understanding or perspective. Sometimes, we think we know what's best for us, what will make us happy or secure. But God, in his infinite wisdom, knows exactly what we genuinely need, precisely when we need it. In the Bible, Jesus tells us that if we, being imperfect humans, know how to give good gifts to our children, how much more will our perfect heavenly Father give good things to those who ask him? But the key insight here is often that God gives us what we truly need, which isn't always the same as what we want. It's so easy to get caught up in desiring things that we believe will fulfill us. Possessions, positions, relationships, things that might look appealing in the moment, but might not actually be what's best for our long-term spiritual growth or our ultimate future. Look at the example of the Apostle Paul. He earnestly pleaded with God 3 times to remove the thorn in the flesh, something that caused him immense personal pain and struggle. Yet, God did not remove it. Instead, he told Paul, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." See Corinthians 12:9. In other words, what Paul thought was a desperate need, the removal of the thorn, wasn't actually what he needed most in that season. What he truly needed was to experience God's supernatural strength being perfected in his very weakness. When you feel like God is not answering your prayers in the specific way you expected, try to remember that he knows exactly what you genuinely need. Sometimes, the very things that seem withheld from us are not denials at all. They are actually acts of divine protection. Trust that God sees your needs from an eternal perspective, and his provision, his answers, will always be in perfect alignment with his greater purpose for your life. God will provide exactly what you need, precisely when you need it. When you're right in the midst of a challenging season of uncertainty, it's incredibly easy to feel like you're completely stuck, or that absolutely nothing positive is happening. You may be looking around, anxiously wondering why your anticipated breakthrough hasn't arrived yet, why your heartfelt prayers seem to go unanswered, or why things seem to be moving so much slower than you had hoped or expected. But here's a truth to anchor your soul. God is actively preparing you right now for blessings that you likely can't even begin to imagine at this moment. What you perceive as mere waiting is actually profound divine preparation. God never wastes a season, not even the difficult ones. Every moment of waiting, every challenging trial, every frustrating setback is actually an integral part of His master plan to prepare you thoroughly for what's coming next. You might not understand it fully in the moment, but every single step, every tear, every prayer is strategically making room for the incredible blessings God has already stored up for you. Think about the Israelites again. They wandered somewhat aimlessly in the desert for 40 long years. Not because God had somehow forgotten them or abandoned them, but specifically because He was preparing them, training them to finally enter the promised land. That difficult, in-desert experience, though undoubtedly arduous, was absolutely necessary for them to grow significantly in their faith, to learn complete reliance on God for their daily needs, and to become equipped to handle the immense blessing and responsibility that was coming their way. The promised land was indeed waiting for them, but they needed to be spiritually and mentally ready for it. Similarly, your blessings may be just around the corner, closer than you think, but God, in His perfect wisdom, will often only release them when He knows you're truly prepared to steward them well. God doesn't just randomly hand out blessings, He lovingly prepares you for them. Sometimes, during these waiting periods, He's diligently strengthening your character, patiently teaching you vital lessons in perseverance, or gently refining your heart, all before He finally opens the door to your next season. These unseen blessings are literally being built and prepared for you as you faithfully walk through the often uncomfortable unknown. So please, don't despair in the waiting. God is actively at work in ways you likely cannot yet see. He is shaping your future even when you don't feel any progress. And when the time is perfectly right, He will pour out blessings upon you that will far exceed anything you could have ever asked for or imagined. Keep trusting Him. Keep growing through the process, because your current preparation is strategically positioning you for the amazing breakthrough that's already on its way. There is something incredibly powerful that happens within us when we consciously choose faith over fear. Fear desperately wants to paralyze you, to make you constantly question your future, relentlessly doubt your God-given purpose, and second-guess every single decision you make. Fear will try its hardest to convince you that the unknown ahead is far too risky, much too dangerous, and that you are simply not equipped for whatever challenges may lie ahead. But faith, beautiful faith, doesn't just acknowledge the unknown, it courageously steps right into it with quiet confidence, fully knowing that God is already there, waiting. Let's be real for a moment. Fear is a natural human emotion. It's completely human to be afraid of what you cannot see, to feel anxious about what you cannot control. But here's the absolute key. Fear is ultimately a liar. Fear insidiously tells you that you're not enough, that you probably won't make it, that you're too small or too weak for the challenge ahead. But faith powerfully reminds you that God is more than enough, that He has already gone before you to prepare the way, and that you truly can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Think again about Peter walking on the water. He bravely stepped out of the relative safety of the boat, right into the middle of a raging storm. A situation that seemed utterly impossible from a human perspective, and for a remarkable moment, his faith literally kept him walking on top of the water. But the very instant he allowed fear to overtake his thoughts, the moment he shifted his focus from Jesus to the storm, he began to sink. Faith keeps you afloat, but fear will inevitably drown you. You don't have to know exactly what's coming next, just to take the next step. What you truly need is simply to step out in faith, implicitly trusting that God is right there with you, even and perhaps especially in the unsettling unknown. Fear will always try to tell you that you're not ready, that you're not capable enough. But faith consistently whispers the truth, that with God you are absolutely more than enough for whatever lies ahead. The fear of the unknown can indeed keep you stuck, paralyzed, and stagnant. But authentic faith in the one who lovingly holds your entire future will powerfully propel you forward, even when you can't possibly see the full picture laid out before you. So today, make the conscious choice. Choose faith over fear. Step bravely into the unknown with quiet confidence, fully knowing that God is already ahead of you, meticulously preparing the way. Don't let fear control your steps any longer. Instead, let unwavering faith guide you directly to the wonderful breakthrough that's patiently waiting just for you. There are certainly moments in life when you may feel deeply uncertain about where you're actually headed. You might look critically at your current circumstances and genuinely wonder if you're truly on the right path, or perhaps if you've somehow missed your God-given opportunity. It's incredibly easy to feel lost when the road ahead seems unclear or foggy, but let me remind you of a stabilizing truth today. Your ultimate purpose is absolutely secure in God's loving hands. You are not here on this earth by accident. God didn't create you merely for random circumstances or pointless wanderings. From the very beginning of time, before you were even formed, He knew you intimately. He ordained your purpose, your unique destiny, the specific gifts and talents He intentionally placed deep inside you. Even when you personally can't see it clearly, rest assured that your purpose is steadily unfolding according to God's perfect, overarching plan. Think about the inspiring story of Esther. She was, by all accounts, just an ordinary girl thrust into an extraordinary, high-stakes situation, facing challenges and fears that seemed utterly impossible to overcome on her own. Yet right in the midst of it all, God had a profound purpose for her, to save her entire people from annihilation. Esther didn't initially know her specific purpose, but when the critical time came, it was clearly revealed, and she courageously rose to the occasion. Her purpose was secure, long before she fully understood or embraced it. And similarly, your purpose is secure too. It's not dependent on your current circumstances, your past mistakes, or your present doubts. It is firmly founded in the immutable fact that God has already prepared good works specifically for you to do. Ephesians 2:10. You may not know all the specific steps that lie ahead, but trust this. The steps you faithfully take today are actively leading you toward fulfilling the unique purpose God has ordained specifically for your life. Don't let confusion or setbacks trick you into thinking your purpose has somehow been lost, derailed, or indefinitely delayed. God's ultimate plan for you is absolutely unshakable. He is constantly working behind the scenes, sovereignly orchestrating events, and strategically aligning opportunities to bring you precisely to the place where your purpose will be fully realized and revealed. Trust Him implicitly through every season, especially seasons of uncertainty. So, stand firm today, knowing with confidence that the work you're doing right now, even if it feels like you're just waiting, is all a vital part of the greater purpose God has for you. You are exactly where you need to be in this moment, and absolutely nothing and no one can ultimately take away the divine purpose God has already ordained for your life. Change. It's undeniably one of the most intimidating words in the human vocabulary for many of us. The very idea of stepping into something new, something completely unknown, can easily stir up feelings of fear and deep uncertainty. We are, by nature, often creatures of habit, and when things feel comfortable, stable, and predictable, we tend to instinctively resist change. But I need you to hear this important truth today. Change itself is not your enemy. Rather, it is often the necessary catalyst for your significant growth. God doesn't allow change to happen in our lives just for the sake of shaking things up randomly. He strategically uses change to prepare us, to stretch us, and ultimately to propel us toward greater things. When God noticeably shifts your situation, it's usually not a sign that something is wrong. Instead, it's often a clear sign that something new, something potentially much better, is waiting just on the horizon. You might not see it clearly yet, but God knows exactly what He's doing every step of the way. The change you might currently be afraid of is often the very thing you desperately need to take you victoriously to your next level of growth and purpose. Look again at the example of Abraham. When God called him to leave everything familiar behind and journey to an unknown land, Abraham didn't possess a detailed map or have any guarantees about what awaited him, but he profoundly trusted that God was leading him towards something far greater. For Abraham, change was literally the doorway into the promise. When you're faced with significant change, the natural temptation is often to cling tightly to what you already know, to hold desperately onto what feels safe and secure. But God frequently calls us to bravely step into the unknown, precisely because that's where authentic faith truly grows. That's where His incredible power is most dramatically revealed. And that's where new opportunities and unforeseen blessings will often emerge. Don't be afraid to consciously let go of the old season, because the new season God is ushering you into will invariably bring with it new strength, fresh wisdom, and unexpected blessings. Change isn't easy, let's be honest. It can certainly be uncomfortable, sometimes even quite painful. But if you truly trust that God is the one leading you through it, you can peacefully rest in the unwavering truth that He never brings you to a place without a distinct purpose in that place. Embrace the change. Step out courageously in faith. And know, deep within your spirit, that God is actively using this very moment of transition to position you for something far greater than you can currently imagine. Don't be afraid of what's next. God is already there, patiently waiting for you. So many of us get trapped in the pervasive lie that our present circumstances somehow permanently define our future potential. We look critically at where we are right now, whether it's enduring a struggle, recovering from a setback, or simply navigating a long season of waiting, and we tragically begin to believe that this current reality is all that life will ever be for us. But hear me clearly today, your present situation does absolutely not define your ultimate future. Just because you're facing significant challenges right now doesn't mean that's how things will always be. Just because you're currently walking through a tough season today doesn't mean you're destined to stay stuck there forever. God is in the business of dramatically turning things around. He specializes in taking situations that seem utterly hopeless from a human perspective, and miraculously bringing new life into them in ways you can't even begin to imagine. Think once more of Joseph. He was cruelly betrayed by his own brothers, sold into the hardship of slavery, falsely accused of a crime he didn't commit, and unjustly thrown into prison. His present situation looked incredibly bleak, devoid of hope. But Joseph didn't allow his circumstances to define him. He held on to his faith and didn't stay stuck in despair. He trusted that his current reality wasn't his final destination. And what happened? God masterfully used those very difficult situations to strategically position him for unparalleled greatness. Joseph miraculously went from the darkness of the prison to the splendor of the palace, and God ultimately used him to save an entire nation. His challenging present didn't define his glorious future. God did. Today, whatever difficult situation you might be facing, please remember this. Your future rests securely in God's capable hands. Your current circumstances may try desperately to tell you one discouraging story, but God's overarching plan tells you something far greater, far more hopeful. You are not stuck. You are being strategically positioned, meticulously prepared, and lovingly shaped for the unique purpose that God has specifically for you. Your current reality is just one chapter in the book of your life. It is definitely not the whole story. Keep pressing forward with faith and determination, because the best is truly yet to come. Your future is brighter than you currently think, and God is already actively working behind the scenes to bring you into a place of divine abundance, profound peace, and fulfilling purpose. Don't let today's struggles convince you that your future is limited. Your future is absolutely limitless with God. In a world that consistently demands instant results and quick fixes, perseverance is a crucial character trait that's often tragically overlooked or undervalued. Yet biblical perseverance is absolutely key to unlocking what God has planned next for you. It's relatively easy to start something new, to feel passionate and excited when things are initially going well, but real, substantial growth and significant breakthroughs typically happen only when you consciously choose to keep pushing forward, faithfully taking the next step, even when it feels like absolutely nothing positive is happening on the surface. God is not only concerned with your ultimate destination, He is profoundly invested in what happens on the journey, in the person you become through the process. Every single step you take, even when it feels like you're not making any forward progress at all, is actually a vital part of His perfect plan. Perseverance isn't just about passively enduring the hard times, it's about actively allowing God to refine you in the waiting, in the struggle, and through the entire challenging process. Think about the incredible story of the Apostle Paul. He certainly didn't have a smooth or easy journey following Christ. He was shipwrecked, imprisoned multiple times, brutally beaten, and constantly mocked for his faith. But through it all, he persevered relentlessly. Why? Because he knew with unshakable conviction that God was actively at work in him and through him, even in the absolute hardest, most discouraging moments. In Paul's unwavering perseverance ultimately led to a powerful, world-changing ministry that reached the far ends of the known earth. If he had quit halfway through, discouraged by the immense opposition, we wouldn't have the profound letters, the invaluable encouragement, and the foundational theological teachings that we hold so dear today. Perseverance fundamentally means you keep moving forward, step by sometimes difficult step, even when the road is undeniably tough. It means you refuse to give up when the promises seem distant or when the struggle feels completely overwhelming. Perseverance is consciously choosing to trust that God is not finished with you yet. He's still working, still shaping you, still meticulously preparing you for the certain breakthrough that's coming your way. So, when you feel like quitting, when the weight of the journey feels almost too heavy to bear, purposefully remind yourself that your perseverance will eventually bear precious fruit. God is actively working in ways you likely cannot yet see. And every single step of faith you bravely take is strategically positioning you for the incredible future He has promised. Keep going, keep trusting, because the ultimate reward for perseverance is always far greater than the temporary sacrifice it requires. God consistently honors those who refuse to give up. We live in a world that constantly tells us to take control, to meticulously plan every detail, to actively manage every outcome. We tend to believe that if we just hold tightly enough to the reins of our own lives, we can successfully steer our future in the exact direction we want it to go. But I'm here to tell you something today that might feel a bit uncomfortable, yet is profoundly true. Genuine, lasting peace typically comes only when you finally let go of the illusion of control and learn to implicitly trust God's lead. The truth is, you were never actually meant to carry the immense weight of trying to control everything. It's utterly exhausting. It's completely overwhelming. And ultimately, it almost always leads to frustration and disappointment. We may think we're in control, but in reality, we're not nearly as in control as we'd like to believe. life happens. Things change unexpectedly. Doors close suddenly. Let's look once more at the example of Abraham. God called him to leave everything he knew and simply follow him into the complete unknown. Abraham didn't possess a detailed map, a clear step-by-step plan, or any tangible guarantees about what lay ahead. But what he did possess was profound trust in God. He consciously let go of his own understandable human need to control the outcome, and instead chose to faithfully follow God's lead, one step at a time. And it was precisely in that act of letting go, of surrendering control, that Abraham bravely stepped into the greatest blessings of his entire life. When you willingly surrender control to God, you are effectively opening yourself up to His perfect will, His perfect timing, and His perfect plan for your life, which is always far better than anything you could orchestrate on your own. Trying to maintain control is ultimately a false sense of security. It makes us feel like we're safe. But the truth is, God's security is infinitely greater and more reliable than anything we can possibly create for ourselves. He lovingly holds your future, your path, your entire destiny securely in His sovereign hands. When you finally let go and genuinely trust Him, you're essentially saying, God, I believe that you truly know what's best for me, even when I can't possibly see it or understand it right now. So today, make the conscious decision to release that desperate need to control everything. Surrender your carefully crafted plans, your persistent fears, your consuming anxieties, and actively trust that God will faithfully guide you exactly where you need to go. Let go of the heavy weight that was never truly yours to carry in the first place, and then watch with awe how God begins to work in ways you could never have possibly orchestrated on your own. He truly has it all under control. All you need to do is faithfully follow His lead. Have you ever found yourself dreaming really big, thinking intently about the future, and imagining the very best that life could possibly offer? We all do. And yet, despite our best, most creative ideas, God's plans for us are invariably bigger, significantly grander, and far more incredible than anything we could possibly imagine for ourselves. Sometimes we can get so intensely focused on pursuing our own personal dreams that we completely forget just how vast and awe-inspiring God's overarching vision is for our lives. Here's the thing. Our dreams are inherently limited by our own finite experiences, our current level of understanding, and the scope of our personal vision. But God sees the whole, entire picture from beginning to end. He knows precisely what you truly need. He knows exactly what you can handle with His help. And He knows perfectly what will ultimately bring the most glory to His name through your unique life story. What seems utterly impossible to you is absolutely nothing for God. He can accomplish more in a single moment than we could possibly achieve in an entire lifetime of striving in our own strength. Think again about the story of Joseph. As a young boy, Joseph's dreams were certainly big for his age. He dreamed of his family bowing down to him. But God's ultimate plans for Joseph were even vastly bigger than his own youthful imagination could conceive. What Joseph didn't know at the time, couldn't possibly have known, was that God was meticulously preparing him through immense hardship to eventually save an entire nation from starvation and to become the powerful second-in-command over all of Egypt. Joseph's initial dreams were merely the starting point, just the beginning of the incredible destiny God had in store for him. God had a profound purpose for Joseph that was far greater, far more impactful than anything Joseph himself could have ever imagined. In the very same way, your personal plans and aspirations might feel quite big and significant to you right now, but rest assured, God's plans for you are immeasurably greater. He has a unique purpose for your life that is likely far beyond your current comprehension. The Bible powerfully reminds us in Ephesians 3:20, "Now to Him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us, If you could somehow catch even a glimpse of the incredible future God has already prepared specifically for you, it would likely blow your mind. You may not understand it all right now, and that's okay. But trust confidently that God is steadily taking you places you've never even dreamed of. Places that will ultimately bring you closer to Him and magnificently fulfill His greater purpose for your life. So, when you find yourself dreaming big, remember this crucial truth. God is dreaming even bigger for you. His plans for your life consistently go beyond anything you could possibly ask or imagine. Trust Him completely. Surrender your plans willingly to His higher wisdom, and know with absolute certainty that the very best is indeed yet to come. One of the greatest fears we often face in life is the paralyzing fear of being utterly alone, especially when we find ourselves walking through unfamiliar territory or navigating particularly uncertain times. It's incredibly easy to feel like you're completely on your own, trying to navigate the vast unknown with no one reliable to turn to, no one strong to support you. But hear me clearly today. You are never truly alone in the unknown. God Himself promises repeatedly in His Word that He will never, ever leave you nor forsake you. That means in every single moment of uncertainty, in every prolonged season of waiting, and with every tentative step you take toward the future, you are absolutely not alone. God is faithfully with you every single step of the way. Think about the incredible story of Moses. When God initially called Moses to lead the vast multitude of Israelites out of brutal slavery in Egypt, Moses felt completely overwhelmed. He questioned his own ability, his worthiness, even his qualifications for such a monumental task. But God didn't just leave Moses to try and figure it all out on his own. God reassuringly said, "I will certainly be with you." Exodus 3:12. Throughout Moses' long journey in the wilderness, whenever the path ahead seemed utterly impossible, God was right there beside him, patiently guiding him, miraculously providing for him, and faithfully leading him step by step toward the promised land. And just as God was constantly with Moses, He is constantly with you. When you're walking through life's inevitable challenges, when you're standing nervously at the edge of the unknown, don't ever fall into the trap of thinking that God has somehow left you behind or forgotten about you. He is right there with you, completely surrounding you with His unconditional love, His empowering strength, and His perfect guidance. God knows exactly what's next for you, and He will faithfully equip you for every single step along the way. When you feel lonely, when the road ahead seems completely unclear, when fear tries relentlessly to rise up and tell you that you're all on your own, remember this unshakable truth: God is with you. You are not walking through the unknown alone. You have a mighty, loving God who walks faithfully beside you, who gently guides you, and who will never, ever abandon you. Trust confidently that you are completely covered by His comforting presence, and purposefully lean into that reassuring truth. He has already walked ahead of you to prepare the way, and He will continue to walk intimately with you through every single step of your unique journey. When life feels incredibly uncertain, when you genuinely don't know what's coming next, and when the path ahead seems overwhelmingly unclear, it's so easy to lose hope. But hope, biblical hope, is the very anchor that keeps your soul steady and secure, even amidst the fiercest storms of life. And the greatest, most reliable source of hope you possess is found in the unchanging promises of God. You see, God's promises are not dependent on your fluctuating circumstances. They are certainly not shaken by the unpredictable ebb and flow of life. His promises are eternal, immutable, unchanging, and incredibly powerful. When you consciously choose to put your hope firmly in what He has promised, you are anchoring yourself to something far greater, far more stable than your fleeting emotions or temporary situations. You are anchoring yourself securely to God's absolute truth. In the Bible, we see countless inspiring examples of God faithfully fulfilling His promises in ways that seemed utterly impossible at the time. Abraham and Sarah, Noah, David, each of them faced critical moments of deep uncertainty, moments where they simply couldn't see how things could possibly work out according to God's promise. But they chose to hold on tightly to God's promises, knowing deep within that God is always faithful to do exactly what He said He would do. Take, for instance, the epic story of the Israelites. They were enslaved in Egypt for centuries, oppressed and seemingly forgotten. Yet God had promised long before to deliver them, even though their present circumstances made deliverance look absolutely impossible. God's covenant promise was far stronger than their current reality. He miraculously parted the Red Sea, faithfully led them through the barren wilderness, and ultimately brought them triumphantly into the very land He had promised to their forefathers. Today, you may not clearly see the way ahead in your own life. You might be currently residing in a place of prolonged waiting, perhaps stuck in a season where the next step seems completely unclear. But God's promises to you still stand firm. He promises to never leave you nor forsake you. He promises to guide you with His wisdom. He promises to faithfully provide for all your needs. And He promises to give you a future filled with undeniable hope. No matter how difficult your current circumstances may seem, please remember that God is always faithful to fulfill His promises. So, regardless of what you're facing today, purpose to hold on tightly to hope. Hope rooted in God's promises is not mere wishful thinking. It's a confident, unwavering expectation that what God has spoken over your life will eventually come to pass. He knows precisely what's next for you, and He is faithfully working right now to bring it to perfect fruition. Your future is absolutely secure in His loving hands. Keep your hope firmly anchored in His promises, because the very best is truly yet to come. Conclusion. I want you to pause for just a moment and really think about where you are in life right now. Maybe you're facing deep uncertainty. Maybe you're standing at a confusing crossroads, or perhaps you're simply navigating a season of prolonged waiting. It's so easy to feel overwhelmed in these times, to feel like you're walking blind, completely unsure of what the future holds. But I want to remind you today of something that can radically change your perspective. God knows exactly what's next for you. You might not have all the answers, and honestly, that's perfectly okay. Because you have something infinitely better. You have a God who sees the end from the beginning, a God whose plans for you are far greater than your own. A God who is actively walking with you, gently guiding you, and meticulously preparing you for all that's to come. When life feels uncertain, please remember this vital truth. God is always working behind the scenes, often in ways you cannot yet perceive. You are never alone in the unknown, and you are certainly not left to figure it all out by yourself. His timing is always perfect. His plans are utterly flawless. And His love for you is completely unshakable. Every challenge you face, every perceived setback, every season of waiting is not a sign that God has forgotten you. Instead, it's often a sign that He is actively preparing you for something far greater. He's refining your character, strengthening your faith, and strategically positioning you for the incredible blessings He has in store for you. You may not see it clearly right now, but God is working in ways you cannot yet fully understand. So, make the conscious choice today to let go of the fear, let go of the doubt, and choose instead to trust implicitly that God's promises are true. You are on a specific journey, and though you may not know every step ahead, you can rest assured knowing that God does. His plans for you are bigger than you can possibly imagine, and the best is truly yet to come. Keep walking forward in faith, even and especially when you can't see the way forward clearly. God knows what's next for you, and His plans for your life are filled with profound purpose, lasting peace, and a future that's brighter than you can even begin to comprehend. No matter where you find yourself today, choose to trust that your tomorrow is securely held in God's hands. He knows what's next, and as you place your trust fully in Him, He will faithfully lead you to places you never dreamed possible. Keep faith, keep hope, and know your future is secure. If this message brought you peace or encouragement, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to watch our next videos.